Welcome back to the Post Peak podcast. This is episode 12. We find ourselves in the middle of July, bang in the middle of July, and bang in the middle of peak car event season. I've had a very busy couple of weeks in cars. What about you, Jack? Have you been busy?
Yeah, plus peak heatwave season as well. So we're right in the middle of, I think, week 3 of a UK heatwave. That I don't think I can remember one lasting as long as this as well. But yeah, it's been really busy. Work's been busy. Kids, running up to end of school, so that's kept me super busy as well. So it's just been a really crazy month. We always call July the burnout month because it's our end of financial year at work for the company I work for. There's always like sports day, summer fairs. Then obviously you want to try and squeeze in a car event where possible as well. So it's just the time of year where you just feel constantly knackered. And then with the heat wave and the fact that we haven't got air conditioning, or we're not really set up for this type of weather consistently, you're not particularly sleeping that well in the evening. Don't like you, James, but yeah, it's been an exhausting but fun and eventful couple of weeks really. So we can give you a bit of an update of what we've been up to. So what have you been doing? What's the kind of the latest on the garage situation your end, James?
Yeah, it's been very busy just solely on the 911. So I had to do my first service since owning the 911, and unluckily for me, it was the major 12-year service, which for 911s is basically the biggest one you can get, where absolutely everything needs to be done, including PDK service. Obviously, plugs, filters, brake fluid, oil, and then PDK as well. So I toyed on that one because the car had full Porsche service history up until this point. But I've decided to move my servicing to RPM Technic. I got quotes from a couple of places, and I just had high confidence, to be honest, in RPM based on the cars that they service regularly, and a bunch of local Porsche owners that I've become friendly with seem to trust and use them also. So I use them. The nice thing about that was they commented on how clean the car is underneath, like mechanically. So that was really good. Nice to see that the kind of not driving it over the winter has paid off. They also MOT'd fine. I then took it to our friend Chris at the Beaconsfield detailing shop, who kindly helped me sort out some headlight PPF. So I have had a big road trip coming up, which I'll talk about later. And the only part of the front of the car that isn't PPF'd was the headlights. So I got him to sort that out for me after doing a bit of research. I was a little bit concerned about the delamination of the protective layer that's on the headlights from factory. But the guy that installed it kind of warned me about that. I decided to take the risk, having chatted to a couple of local owners of 991s, and yeah, it all went fine. Unfortunately, there's already a little bit of pitting to the headlights because they're 10 years old and haven't had PPF on them. But my figure is that now they're protected, hopefully they won't get much worse than they already are. So had that done. Then and one other thing to call out about the Beaconsfield detailing shop is, whilst at the moment they're still regularly detailing customers' cars, they are soon going to be opening an online shop with a pickup service as well. So either for delivery if you don't live local to Beaconsfield, but if you do and you want to get top quality detailing products, they're going to be opening their online store very soon, which is definitely exciting for me, given that my previous local supplier moved away from the local area. So Chris is going to be bringing that back to the local area for high quality detailing products, which is great. Then I went to Porsche's by the Lake, which was an event a couple of weeks back over in Essex. Did a drive out with about 15 cars in the end, so that was really fun. The drive there was could have been a slightly better route, but it was fun just being with a bunch of really cool cars and cool people. Event was
What
super.
was what was sorry? What was part of the group? Was there anything really interesting as part of that group? Any other GTSs, GT3s?
Yeah, there was a manual 991.1 GTS, a guy that I hadn't met before. So I was having a chat with him. It had like 17,000 miles, so it was absolutely mint. There was a 991.2 GT3 in full Le Mans livery, which was pretty cool. And I ended up going to Le Mans with and met up with that guy there. So that was really good. The event was really nice. The setting's amazing by a lake, as the name suggests. But just a really relaxed show where you couldn't walk more than 10 meters without bumping into someone, talking to them. Yeah, just a great atmosphere, great show. Really enjoyed it. However, when I was there, I had a slight problem with one of my exhaust tips that had come. Basically, the clamp on it had corroded and come loose, and it was like fully on the wonk, like drooping down on the car. Um, Managed to kind of push it back in while I was there. But it was really funny actually driving on the way home. I just felt really negative about the car, like knowing that potentially the exhaust was like hanging off. Usually I'm like, oh, I love being in the car. People probably love seeing it, etc. And I was like, I almost don't want to be seen in this because if the exhaust's hanging off, people will just think like, oh, that car's not well looked after, not well maintained. So I was like going home with my tail between my legs, and I didn't realize that I was that precious about what it looks like. So um, basically the day after that, I took it to my local garage in the village that I live in, and found out that the guy that runs that actually is a Porsche fan as well. He has a 997.2, which is pretty cool. And yeah, he basically sorted a fix for that. So hopefully, I'm not going to need to get new tips just yet. And so far, they've held on well. So yeah, big mix of events and car maintenance. With more stuff coming up. So yeah, it's been super busy for me on the car front, in and around all of the other stuff that you talked about before. So hopefully your last couple of weeks has maybe been a bit more chilled and just enjoying the new experiences with the car.
Yeah, definitely has been. So I think on the last pod, I mentioned about making it a bit more grandad, a bit more Q spec because
Mm.
the kind of way it looked and stuff. So yeah, I think in summary, washed the cars, both cars actually more than I've ever washed them in a year. I think in the last couple of weeks, which is good. It's just easier with the light in the evening and stuff. It's just nice to get out in the evening when there isn't direct sunlight on them and actually give them a good wash and stuff. So cars are kept looking nice at the moment. However, we did go to an event this weekend and the car's now changed colour because of the amount of dust that was swept up over it while sitting in a car park. But on the M5 note, I chromed the grills, so I put the original grills back in the front. It had some DLR yellow DLR lights, the daylight running lights. So the previous owner changed them from the whites to the yellows, which obviously look super aggressive, a bit like the CS, the M5 CS. And I get why he might want to make it look like that, but I just think that car, especially an M5, doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really suit that kind of aggressive look unless you have got a real CS. Then it's a different story altogether. So again, that was a massive job because I got the modules from the people that I bought the car from. So I just assumed you could just open the bonnet, put your hand down behind the light, and jobs are good. And in the end, it was 2 hours worth of labour in again one of my local garages who know me really well. And what you had to do is there's a YouTube video I had to watch to figure it out. But you effectively have to take both front wheels off, the whole front bumper off, take the
Wow.
light out, to then replace these tiny little, almost like SD card sort of size modules that go slot in the
Yeah.
back of the headlights. You take the yellow ones out, put the standard ones back in again, and then put everything back on. So it was a massive job considering it's such a small,
Yeah.
significant element. So that was interesting, and also found that there was a little bit of pressure loss in one of the rear tires, and found out there was a nail in one of the rear tires. So I had that repaired luckily because there's a lot of tread left on them, and the Pilot Sport 4Ss. So again, they're quite expensive to replace. So again, local garage did that. So that's the M5, I think what I'd like to get done is it's has got a set of spacers on it. I think you picked up on a picture that I posted a few weeks back when
Mm.
I parked it up in a car park, and you could see it's again quite aggressively spaced. I am a fan of spacers, but I appreciate they probably come with some I guess maintenance concerns, because I remember putting a set of spacers on my old Discovery and then quite quickly needed a wheel bearing because of the weight and the offset of the tire
Mm.
on the corner. But so I am thinking of keeping spacers on there, but maybe reducing them so they don't look so aggressive on the back. But that's kind of maybe what I'll get done in the next couple of weeks. But apart from that, I'm liking how it's looking now. It's driving really nice, getting used to kind of the power now, and I've kind of braved it in M2 mode of everything turned off, and taking it for a few spirited drives recently. So yeah, it's an absolute machine. The only thing that is very different is jumping out of the E92 into the M5.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's rapid. It's a lot faster. It's an absolute weapon of a car, but the feedback and the experience, the noise isn't quite there yet. But that might be something that we could have a look at again as we start to do more things with it. But that's probably a job for another day. But that's the M5. Q7. I found a little glitch actually, which is interesting. I read about it online with the tailgate lights. So I had a light bulb light come up, so I was like, oh, maybe it needs a new headlight. So I checked around, realised that actually none of the lights in the real tailgate were actually working. Then Googled it and found out that sometimes the wiring loom or something in the back, the harness that connects the tailgate to the light circuit, apparently can get snagged a little bit. So I've played around with it, and so far it hasn't come back on again. But I'm going to have to find exactly where the fault is and probably tape it up or repair it or get a new wiring set. So I thought that was interesting, because I thought Q7s generally are pretty bulletproof. But
Mm.
there you go. There's a little quirk with a Q7 I discovered about a week ago, and so far hasn't come back on. But I'm expecting it to, as maybe temperatures drop and
Mm.
autumn comes around and the wet weather and damp gets in. That's the latest from me in terms of garage update. So talk to me
Cool.
about what you've been up to. So what's this amazing road trip you've been on the last week or so? Where did you go?
I went to Le Mans Classic. Uh, it's been an event that I've wanted to go to for a long, long time. I've wanted to go to Le Mans basically for a long, long time. I feel like it's crazy that I love cars so much and I'd never been to Le Mans and never seen what it was about. So, I'm a member of a Porsche WhatsApp community called Nineworks, and I saw that they had a chat within the community there about Le Mans. And when I joined that community last summer, I started to chat to a couple of people about Le Mans, because it feels like such a big event that it's difficult to know like how it works, what the best way to go is. You've got to factor in the fact you're going to another country, everyone's going to be speaking another language, and I don't know. For me, it always just felt a little bit daunting. Like, do you go to the 24 hour? Do you go to the classic? And I guess a couple of things aligned. So the classic used to be every other year. Now they've changed it to be every year. And what they're doing is they're alternating the years of cars that are at the Le Mans Classic each year. So this
I
year,
didn't know that. That's really interesting. So each time you go now, even though it's on every year, you're going to get a different genre of car, right? You're going to get a different era. That's really interesting.
alternating. So basically,
Okay.
the year that I went was late 70s to 2015, and then next year it will be cars from like the 1920s, 1930s to the mid 70s, and then 2028 will be back to the more modern classics. 2029 will be back to the vintage stuff. So um, I I'm particularly more interested in the more modern classics, like the cars that we grew up with, obviously the loud, fast stuff. Less so in kind of, I mean, I love E types and GT40s and stuff like that, but what I really want to see is McLaren F1s and Porsche 996 and 997s and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was on. That made me particularly interested in it, and then I got a lot of reassurance, I guess, from the Nineworks group about like the best booking options, etc. So ended up booking it last year with a company called Lycean Events. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's how I pronounce it. And they run effectively like a glamping private campsite. So you are directly on the Porsche curves part of the circuit, and then you have catering, so you don't need to worry about cooking, you don't need to worry about washing up. You have better maintained facilities for toilets. There's a bar, they have a live band. So although you're still in a tent, that you can either bring your own or have one pre put up for you, or have like a posh bell tent. I went for the middle option of just having a normal tent pre-done for me when I arrived. It took a lot of the like headache out of camping, and it meant that we had to pack less as well.
I was
Um,
about to say you didn't need to bring so much stuff with you. You just bring a few change of clothes, some bits, and you could bring
Sleeping
a
bag,
small bag probably. Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
sleeping bag, pillow. I was actually really surprised about the 911. I thought it would be a ridiculously tight fit, but we basically ended up having the frunk of the car full of. We bought a fridge with us, and we bought like a big portable battery pack and solar panel. So we had the sun powering our fridge, which was really useful because then we had cold drinks available on tap.
That
Um,
is an absolute sick idea. Talk about priorities as well. That is
yeah,
not. I wouldn't have thought of
whole
that. You
bit.
can see it's not your. It's certainly not your first rodeo when it comes to camping, though, right? Like I
Well,
would
it
never have
kind
thought
of
about that.
was, but my brother's big into camping, and he had all this gear, and he was like, "I've got a camping fridge," and he was like, "How are you going to power it?" And then he had this like fold out solar panel, and because it was so hot and sunny, it was powering away very nicely. So we had cold beer because the beer there was quite expensive, so it was nice to just be able to go to the supermarket and buy beers and drink them on the Porsche curves and have a merry old time. Um, but the car actually managed to fit stuff really, really well. There was loads of space in the back with the seats down. We got sleeping bags, we got pillows, we got bags, food. So the 911 can definitely swallow a lot of kit when you need it to. So that was good. But anyway, the event.
What was the drive there? There, talk about how you got there. How what was your? Because I guess you could do it lots of different ways. So what was your route, and why did you take that route?
We did Eurotunnel. We did Eurotunnel because that's the route that I've taken to Europe. I think I talked about it on a previous pod,
Mm.
but that's how I typically go. That's their default option. So they provide you with a package that includes the crossing. Some people did come across on the ferry, and actually the Eurotunnel on the way home was a complete nightmare. We had like 20 minutes, 2 hours of delays because there was so much traffic on the way coming back. On the way out, it wasn't quite so bad because we went on a Thursday. Um,
What was the way back? Was that a Sunday? Was that a Sunday night? So you've obviously got people coming back from their holidays as well, and people
no, we
commuting
actually
back
came
to
back on the
London.
Monday. On the Monday, because
Oh, so it was
the
a
event
Monday. Wow.
the event effectively runs from, you can get on the campsites from Thursday. The event is Friday for testing, Saturday qualifying and a bit more testing, and then like Saturday evening into Sunday afternoon is when all the races happen. So in the 24 hour, obviously you've got the same cars racing for 24 hours. In the Le Mans Classic, you have about five different classes of cars from the various eras in that 2015 to 1976 period. And they basically have three races each, plus a qualifying session, plus a practice session. So you end up getting to see the same cars quite a few times, but they run in like 1 hour stints. Um, and there's just so much to see there. I mean, 3 days was. I felt like I'd had enough after the 3 days, to be honest. But the circuit is so huge that there's lots of different places where you can go and see racing from. Then they obviously have like a main paddocks and village, which was really cool. So much to see there. And then they had loads of car clubs. And what was really nice about that was going to see all the French car clubs and seeing French cars, cool French cars that you don't see at UK events. Like if you do the UK event circuit, there's definitely an element of, oh yeah, I've seen that car before. I've seen that car before. Going to France and seeing, the French owners club of Lamborghini or whatever. Like you're just seeing different cars. We saw some amazing cars there, and it gave me an appreciation of how much the French are really passionate and enthusiastic about their cars. So that was cool. But definitely the best thing about the event, one was the quality of cars that were there and that you're getting to see driving, probably being raced at 8 to 9 tenths on track, like a McLaren F1 GTR 2 actually in the same class racing each other, both being worth £20 million plus. But the main one just being the whole, as the day descends into night and you're there at sunset and then you're there in the dark and you're seeing cars with glowing brake discs and spitting flames, um, at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, was very, very cool and something that I won't forget in a hurry. So yeah, it was a brilliant event all around. I just wish it was a little bit cooler in the daytime, probably similar to the experience that you've had this weekend gone. Like, it would have just been nice to have been that, not 35 degrees plus, but more like, the weather we've got this week, which is sort of high 20s, would have been so much nicer. And there there was some shade around the circuit, but there definitely could have been more. And it was like, you could see people sheltering for shade as much as they could because it was really, really hot. Someone that we knew when we were there got heat stroke. So yeah, you had to be quite careful.
Yeah, what was the accessibility? Because what I've heard with that, particularly that event over the normal 24-hour Le Mans, is that you can get quite close to the action. You can get into the pits. You can see the drivers. It's quite,
Yeah.
you can. It's a lot more accessible. Put it this way: when you go to Silverstone and watch the F1, you get nowhere near the action unless you're invited or you're some kind of VIP or you can pay your way in. So, what was the accessibility and what was it like walking around and navigating the circuit? Because it's a big old place, isn't it?
Yeah, I was comparing it with a guy that I at my work goes to the Le Mans 24 hour every year, and I showed him a couple of pictures of Classic, and he was like, "Wow, it's so much quieter." And then we compared attendance numbers for the weekend, and the attendance numbers for the 24 hour, I believe, was around 350,000, and at Le Mans Classic, it was basically bang on half that, 175,000. And people that have been to the Classic before actually said that they felt that the attendance number was probably 25% down on a normal classic. And maybe that's because they've changed the format. Like, maybe some people weren't planning for it to be every year. It was obviously on last year and now it's on this year. But most people viewed that as a big positive. By no means was it dead. There was people everywhere. But what it meant was that you didn't have to queue really for anything. If you needed the toilet, you were straight in. If you needed a drink, you'd maybe be second in the queue, or an ice cream. Um, and as you mentioned, in the paddocks, you could get really good access to cars and have chats with people. I really love just going into some of the slightly older paddocks, so the cars from like the 70s and 80s, the Group C cars, and just either having a quick chat or listening and hearing the people that are running those cars. They're quite often people that are like, in their 60s, 70s, that have obviously had the car for a long time and still run it as a kind of passion hobby project. And that's super cool. The Mazda 787B was there, which is probably my favorite car, one of my favorite cars ever. It's certainly my favorite sounding car.
I was going to say, what does that sound like? That in real life, I've never heard one in real life. So, what was that like? That must have sounded insane.
Well, initially we heard it in the pits, and they were moving it around in the pits. And I'm not 100% sure. I need to look this up, but I think it was the CEO of Mazda that was there, sort of pushing the car around. Um, he was definitely a Japanese guy, and he looked pretty senior, put it that way. Um, so on Idol, it sounded pretty cool, pretty special. But then hearing it on the track again, the only thing I would say is I felt as if it was probably, because it's such a special car, it was probably only being driven at 6 or 7 tenths, and it was only doing on each parade. It did two parades on the weekend. Each time it only did 2 laps. So the first lap, it was almost like warming up. Second lap was definitely louder and better, but you could tell that the tone of the engine was absolutely insane, but it wasn't being driven as hard as a couple of the other Group C and early 90s like GT1s, etc. But yeah, it was still amazing to see. I would have just liked to have seen it maybe at 9 or 10 tenths, like I've seen on YouTube videos in the past.
Yeah. Imagine that at night time as well, based on where you were standing. If you could watch it at night with the glowing brakes and you just
Mm,
hear it coming, that'd be insane, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Sounds like so. Were you going to go in 2028? You said then, because next year is going to be kind of the older genre. So then the year after will be back to what you saw this time. Would you go again, or is it more like a bucket list thing? If you ticked it off and you're going to go hunting for some other
I think
experiences?
I would go again. I would want to go again. So I went this time with a long-term university friend of mine, and it was just me and him that went. I think if I go again, I will try and, given we've got 2 years to prepare it, I'll try and organize like a bigger group of people to go. I think it'd be really fun with like a bigger group. I'm already trying to coax my friend Ash, who's moved back to New Zealand, to put it in the diary for 2 years' time as a journey over. And we're going to think about maybe doing Le Mans Classic, Nürburgring, and Festival of Speed, like all within like a 2 week trip over to Europe for him. So, if I can make something like that happen, then yeah, for sure, I would definitely return. Um, but hopefully with a bigger group.
Yeah, I'll come. I'll come along next time if you'd invite me.
Of course, of
Let's
course.
do it. Let's get it in the diary. So yeah, on that note, in terms of events, I did the Festival of Speed this year, which is probably my favourite event I think of the year. I think about the car calendar.
Mm,
And partly the reason for that is because I can bring people along. So I brought my son along. So it was a bit of like a father son bonding day, which was brilliant. And so
mm,
Festival of Speed, the old me when I was on my own and I'd go there, I'd probably get a grandstand seat and I would be obsessed with the hill climb and listening to the cars fly up the hill and who was driving them, and I'd get more immersed in the actual racing side of it. Whereas I think when you take the kids, within 15 minutes they're probably quite bored at watching a lot of that stuff because
yeah,
it was almost the same thing over and over again. Okay, you've got different genre and different types of things going up the hill, but they're more interested in what's going on outside. So you've obviously got the motor show element of it, which is insane. It's massive now. It's probably, I've been going most years, I've gone most years over the last 10 years, and it's probably
mm,
about 3 times the size of when I first went. I actually used to manage some of the hospitality suites there in a previous life about 12, 13 years ago. And so the event was, yeah, third, if that, the size. So it was unreal. We kind of got up, we left just after 5:30 in the morning. So we got there super early. So I wanted to make the most of it. A, because he's normally up at that time anyway, but B, because I think the gates open at 7 and I think it closes at 7. So we really wanted to get down there before the rush, get parked up and get in before the queues
yeah,
begin.
yeah,
And it was even going down there. I mean, it's about a 2 hour drive south from where I live, and we got to the A3, which is kind of the main road, sort of heading down that neck of the woods before you kind of teeter off down the kind of A and B roads from there,
yeah,
and ended up in a group with a couple of BMWs and a Lamborghini Huracan, which was unreal. So we ended up going through the Hindhead Tunnel, and even though there was a speed limit through there, so there's a variable speed limit, so no one was speeding or anything. It's just the fact that everyone was like downshifting, dropping down to about 20 mile an hour and then speeding up and just listening to the Huracan.
mm,
So my son was absolutely buzzing by the time we got there because we had a really cool drive down there in a big convoy following and finding lots of other cars along the way. And yeah, like I said, we were in there for about 7:30 in the morning. So we made a full day of it. And it is so kiddie friendly. It's unreal. There's loads of activities for him to do. A lot of the manufacturers made like a big fuss of having a kid there, so they gave him stickers and swag, and so we ended up with like a load of this freebie stuff that he's now plastered around his room and stuff, which is really cool.
mm,
He got some he got some really really cool stuff when I think about it. So great for kids if you want a kid family friendly day out. It's brilliant for that. The one thing that was missing this year, which I've noticed in other years, is they had an air show last time I was there, and they didn't seem to have one this time, which is a shame. So we had last time I was there when I took him when he was a lot younger. They had like the Red Arrow display and all
yeah,
that. Which this year they didn't seem to have, which was a bit of a shame because again, if you're not 100% into cars, but you're out for like a family day out, that would have been a nice touch as well. So that was
yeah,
missing. But in terms of highlights, the BMW stand was cool. The fact that I could prove that I was an owner because I had the app and I had a key meant that we got into the hospitality at the top of it, and they had a great grandstand or a great stand overlooking the track. So it was a great viewing platform to see some stuff go up the hill. So
Yeah.
that was a nice little hack. In future, maybe bring a load of keys with you so you could prove to each manufacturer that you were an owner, so you could get into some of the VIP areas, you could call it. But yeah, from a viewing perspective, if you didn't have a grandstand seat, that was a real hack getting into
Yeah.
some of the hospitality. I think they launched the new M3 there that we spoke about in a previous podcast, which looked unreal.
Yeah,
So
they had it. They
seeing
had it at Le Mans as well the week before, so I had a look at it in person there, and I thought it looked really good. Unfortunately, it was cordoned off. I don't know if it was cordoned off at Foz.
you couldn't get in it, but you could touch it, if that makes sense. You were within touching distance of it, so you get super close to it. And then they had, is it
Mm.
the i3, I guess, or the 3
Yeah,
series, the
yeah,
standard one
yeah,
equivalent that
yeah.
you could get into as well, which looked
All
pretty
right.
cool. But yeah, the M3, oh my god, that looks insane. A bit too futuristic, a bit too out there. I think if I was going to buy one, I don't know, but I'd love to drive one because of just that performance and the fact that you've got the option of having electric and combustion.
Mm.
That's pretty cool. It sounds like BMW are listening to their fans. And then right at the top, so next to the hospitality area within the BMW stand, there was a E9, an orange, the GTS E92 M3 right at the top, and it just brought back so many memories. I was like, I really want an E92 again.
Mm.
I want it because it's just such, I think, I don't know what's happening. Maybe I'm regretting selling my one, even if I could have ran the M5 next to it and had the M5 more as a day to day. I should have really kept the E92. So I am thinking about maybe exploring getting back into the E92 world again, just because the driving experience was so raw, the sound of it was insane. And where they are at the moment, I mean, they've started to appreciate, because I've definitely
Yeah,
undersold mine. They are starting to kind of, they're asking big money now. When I did a search last night, when I was kind of thinking about it, they're almost at the same money the 1Ms are now, in terms of, for a good quality one with decent mileage that's been well looked after, they're starting to really catch up and creep up now.
yeah,
So I'll keep an eye on those. And then I think other highlights where the Porsche stand was insane. It was almost like it was probably the stand with the best atmosphere in it, because it was almost like a party going on in there. By the time we got in there, it was like
yeah. And they
loud
have all
music,
the owners' group
DJ.
park outside, right, as well on the field.
Yeah, it was in a really cool section where had like Porsche Owners Club, and then you had all the color coordinated parking, which was insane. So that made for a really good picture.
Yeah,
But their
someone
stand
sent me a
was,
video of like 15 red ones all lined up, and they said you should be here. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. I was looking for your car. Yeah, I was looking in the red ones, but yeah, maybe next year, because I honestly, the way they just got, that was the most exciting stand out of all the stands to visit, because there was just major hype there. There was loud music, people dancing around. It was just, that was the coolest stand, I think, out of all of them. And they had some really interesting stuff. Like they had some old Le Mans cars. They had some old GT cars that were kind of on these stackers as well. So it was just a really cool stand. Um, I'd say in terms of mainstream, JLR stand was interesting. I got to sit in like a lovely green Octa, which would be probably my dream family car. But again, it's got the best of both worlds. It's got the kind of JLR, ruggedness of a proper 4x4, but it's got the BMW M5 engine in it. So you kind of get the reliability of the BMW, but with the off-road ability of this crazy four-wheel drive. So that was cool. I would say other highlights were the Singer stand. So next to Singer, so they had this entire lineup of all of their cars, starting with the original one and then kind of went all
yeah,
the way around to the latest. And then they did a tour outside, at one point outside the house as well. So you got to see them drive and listen to them, which was really cool. So that absolutely stunning. But next to the Singer stand was the Cartier lawn.
yep,
And on there, each year, I love going there because
yep.
they're all classics, but these are just insane classics. I mean, they had, I would say, 5 or 6 Lamborghini Mirrors, right? SVs, there was S's, they were really, really amazing looking. Like, that's probably
Mm,
my favorite Lamborghini.
mm,
And, even just seeing one in the flesh is unreal, but seeing 4 or 5 in different colors, all sort of staggered, sat next to each other. And then behind them was a load of Koenigseggs as well. It's just like, what is going on? What is happening to me? This is almost what heaven looks like. So that was super cool. And then really just to wrap up in the sort of main motor show arena, BYD had probably the largest stand I've ever seen there. It was insane. It was on like 3 floors. It took up a lot of space. But what was really interesting in is they had the Denza range. So they had a few launches of like kind of hyper supercar that does like 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds that Jensen Button unveiled at the event as well, and that went up the hill, which was seriously quick.
Mm.
But they also had a couple of other really interesting cars that one of them took my fancy, which is one of the Bayos. So they had a Bayo 5, which is effectively like the Chinese version of the Land Rover Defender. So it's got that kind of ruggedness, it's high up, but you've arguably got great reliability with it, which is the issue that I've shared in previous podcasts, being an ex-JLR owner. I've had a lot of reliability issues in the products that I've had from them in the past. So he kind of spoke about that. And what was really interesting, I don't know enough about Denza as a brand, but when you look at BYD, the parent, and Denza, the way I was told from the people that I guess have to sell it or promote it was it's a bit
But
like
people that know
Toyota.
absolutely nothing and they've just holding
Yeah,
to get your details.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know. It was their analogy was it's the equivalent of like Toyota to Lexus, right? It's a kind
Okay.
of premium brand within the brand, right? A bit
Yeah.
like Range Rover and Land Rover, right? And so when I sat in it, the guy told me the story that actually was co-engineered with Mercedes, and Mercedes actually pulled out last minute, but they continued to develop and build the car. So I didn't know this, but BYD are the largest EV manufacturer globally. And so the Denza brand is that I guess their premium luxury
Yeah.
brand of the BYD. So BYD has never been on my radar. They looked relatively vanilla, but when you saw the Denza stuff, they're
Yeah.
supercars. They've always got like this coupe looking car that almost had like this Maserati look about it, where it was like a four-seater convertible. And they're not going down this kind of all EV route. A lot of them are plug-in hybrids, so they are starting to listen to people in terms of what people want,
Mm.
rather than just forcing people down the EV route. But the Bayo 5 is the smaller off-roader, but they're bringing out a Bayo 7 later on, I think, or early next year apparently, and that's going to be a 7-seater version, massive SUV. But I guess it's going to tick a lot of boxes. And from a price point perspective, it's going to be probably 40 to 50% of the equivalent spec JLR products, right? So I am quite interested because I'm thinking that's a lot of value for money. And when you look at the reliability and you look at the build quality of them, was actually so I've put my name down to test drive one. So I'll let
A
you know when
5
that
or a
turns
7?
up. A 5, because there's only 3 available in the UK, 3 actual cars here, and all 3 of them were at Festival Speed. But the 7 would mean that I believe it's going to have 7 seats, whereas the 5's only a 5-seater. I think that's how you distinguish between the two. But
Yeah. Yeah.
one of them's got a slightly longer wheelbase, slightly longer boot space as well. But when you look at it, I mean, the fact that I'd come from the JLR stand, that's what's great about the Festival of Speed. If you are car shopping, you've got a lot of amazing cars or great manufacturers all within quite a close proximity. So you could almost get into a Defender and go, yeah, this is lovely. And they are lovely, lovely cars. And then almost walk across the street into the BYD stand, go and sit in a bay and go, okay, so similar height, similar width, I guess, maybe a
Yeah.
slightly shorter wheelbase, but you can back to back the feel of them. And then if you can book test drives and things like that after, I guess you get to the front of the queue being, someone that's at the festival that's registered their interest. So I'll let you know when that turns up, because I'm hoping to maybe have one for the day, which I've asked them for. So, but yeah, that's all the car news for me this week. So yeah, as you can see, it's been a busy couple of weeks. So what's going on for Car World for you, looking forward over the next couple of weeks and next month and stuff? What have you got coming up? Anything exciting?
I have something exciting this weekend. So this weekend there is a really good cars and coffee event going on at JZM. So they're a Porsche specialist over in Kings Langley. Going to go to that in the morning and then just drive straight from there over to Bista Motion. That's hosting a private mini track day, basically. So there's a small little track at Bista, and there's a Porsche specific track day going on there in the morning and the afternoon of Sunday. So I'm booked on in the afternoon. So I'm doing cars and coffee, sort of with the car nice and clean in the morning, and then go and thrash it on track in the afternoon and get it covered in brake dust and bugs, etc. So I'm really looking forward to that. Be good to put the car through its paces at full tilt, but in a relatively safe, controlled environment. There's only 5 cars allowed on track at any one time, so it's more controlled than a normal full on open pit lane track day, which I kind of wanted to avoid. So that's the main thing, to be honest. After that, at the moment, I don't have loads in the diary. Considering maybe going to the Piston Heads meet at Bicester, um, but I don't know. I'm gonna consult some of the local car groups that I'm in and see what other events are available. But to be honest, I would rather focus the second half of this year on driving rather than doing cars and coffee, because I think there's only so much that you can do when you turn up to a static meet and have a look at some cars, which now that I've got a Porsche tend to be more Porsche related meets. And then, you've seen one 911, you've seen 1000 911s. I'm keen to see a bit more variety and hopefully get out in the car and drive it a bit more before I inevitably tuck it away for the winter. So that's the goal for me. What about
Let's
you?
do that then. Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we should get the cars together and do maybe a drive over the summer while we got the light, right? Either first thing or last thing, whilst the roads are a bit empty, and get them to stretch their legs and maybe get a few photos together as well. The cars together, because they're very different, right? And it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to throw you the keys of the M5 and see how you fare with that. Because as I said, it's very different. You drove, or I can't remember. I think I remember driving you in the E92
yeah, yeah,
M3.
yeah,
I remember, and it's just a completely different driving experience. Hence why I almost want the best of both worlds. I miss
mm,
the rawness and the fact that I felt like I was going to die every time I drove the M3 really fast.
yeah,
Whereas, I know in the M5 I'm doing a lot more. I'm covering a lot more ground, doing a lot more pace in the M5. But it's still, even with everything turned off, it doesn't feel like it's going to kill me. It gives you this maybe a very false sense of security, but I feel like I can cover ground a lot easier, a lot faster in the M5 without feeling like I'm about to die.
yeah,
And it's almost very easy, I guess, to potentially lose your license in that car. Whereas I quite like the idea of something with maybe less horsepower, less weight, and having more of a weekend car. So I think at the moment we're only a couple of months into ownership, but in summary, I know I'd document and share that on the pod. But I would say, I'm swaying at the moment. I would say I'm swaying more towards that kind of 3-car setup that you've got, James, versus the all-in-one Swiss Army knife. Because when you do have that 10% opportunity to really take it out, you almost want something that you are quite scared of that does
yeah,
need taming, versus something that you could just push a button, it goes, light speed, but you're not getting the visceral experience you would do from something that was a bit more raw and rugged. So
yeah.
yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Cool. All right, let's close it there. We've gone on a bit longer than we usually do, but there's been a lot to talk about given its peak car season. So we'll close it there, and hopefully we'll be back in touch and see you again for another episode soon. Thanks for
See you
listening.
soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.